Hey guys, welcome back to Ojo's Pizza. We're back in the kitchen and today we're going to be showing you how to make our signature Neapolitan style pizza dough at home in just some easy steps. Let's get into it. Okay, so with our pizza dough, the key to our signature dough is using this, which is called a Poolish. A lot of people have heard of a sourdough starter or maybe a Bega, but this is a Poolish. And what this is it's a really easy way to start your dough and kickstart everything, and gives the dough a better flavour, better texture as well. So what you do is you take your total amount of dough, or your total amount of flour, sorry, you take a third of that away, you hydrate it 100%. So say you've got a kilogram of flour, you take 300 grams out, you add 300 grams of water, a tiny bit of yeast, and then you do that 24 hours before you make your bulk of dough. And what you end up with is this pre-ferment. So what this has done is created like a flavour, and it's kick-started the yeast and also some gluten as well. So this gets mixed in with everything else, and we're going to do that now. So what we've got is a stand mixer. You can do this all by hand, that's no problem at all. This just makes it slightly easier, but if you haven't got a stand mixer, it's no problem. So we're going to start out by putting our Poolish into the mixer. Is there a scraper? The red. So we're going to start out by putting our Poolish, thank you Ollie, into the mixer, and just get it in there. You'll see, I'll lift it so you can see the consistency of it. It's like a batter, loads of air in it, and it smells really sort of grainy and a bit earthy, and that sort of translates into the final product. So it goes into there. Now, once you've calculated your Poolish, you're left with your flour, your yeast and your water. So you've taken the recipe with the total amount of your flour, water, yeast, but you've taken a section of that out to make the Poolish. So all that goes into our dough is flour, water, yeast and salt. That's it. So now what we're going to do is add in the rest of what we haven't used for our Poolish. So I'm going to get this onto our scales, add our water into our Poolish and mix that up. So 229 grams of water. Tap water is fine. If you want to really go crazy, you can use filtered water, but it won't make a difference really. Just make sure it's not freezing cold. If it's in the summer and it's a really hot day, you could use colder water that's been in the fridge just to make sure it doesn't overproof your dough. But normally tap water is absolutely fine. So 229 grams. There we go. That's in there. Now we're going to mix that together. Okay, now that's mixed together nicely, we're going to add our flour. Now we use this Caputo flour, which is 00 pizza flour. We've tried a few different types of 00 flour, but we found that this is the best for us. It works. You can get a blue version of this, which we used quite a lot, but we've recently switched over to this red, and it's brilliant. You can get this online. You can get it at Amazon. If you've got a Booker account or a Macro nearby, they should sell this as well. You can also get the small bags. So what I'm going to do is weigh out 458 grams. So just to go over this recipe, it's for 4 pizzas, so 4 dough balls. The Poolish was 196 grams of flour, 196 grams of water, and 0.07 grams of yeast, so a tiny amount of yeast. So the rest of my flour is 458 grams of flour, 229 grams of water, and 0.59 grams of yeast. So we want 458 grams. $458. So we're going to gradually add this in to the mixer, just on a low speed. So what you should start getting is the dough coming together. You shouldn't have to mess around with it, scraping the sides down or anything, because it should do that itself. Now, when this has come together, what we're going to do is leave it to rest, and this is called autolyzing the dough. So you don't want to mix it too much at this point. You just want to bring it together, and then when we let it rest, what happens is the starch releases sugar and the proteins create gluten. So without mixing it, you're actually doing it a favour, and you're starting that gluten process. You could just carry on mixing it, but it's going to take longer. So actually, by letting it rest, you can create that gluten structure faster. So once the dough's roughly come together, like this, it doesn't have to be smooth. Probably want a bit more underneath there, but we're going to let it rest for about 20 minutes. So that's roughly come together now. I'm going to get it off the hook and show you. It's still very sticky, but you can see it's a rough dough. So I'm going to put this back in the bowl, and we're going to let that sit for about 20 minutes, half an hour. I'm going to wash my hands, but all of the flour will soak up that water, and it's just going to make your life easier, especially if you're doing it by hand. That's going to save you a lot of work. So we're going to come back in 20 minutes and carry on with our dough. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes of autolyzing. So I'll just show you the difference it makes to the dough. So this is sat, and already you can see how elastic it is without even mixing it that much. So that's what you get. So that's already built up a good base layer of gluten, and it's released the sugars. So if you do that as well, releasing those sugars during that stage will give you a nice colour on the crust when you go to bake it in the final bake in the oven. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in the rest of our yeast. So we use Alison's Easy Bake yeast. I don't know who Alison is, but she makes good yeast. You could probably use any Easy Bake yeast, to be fair. The dry active yeast, I think that's the one where you have to activate it in water. But this Easy Bake stuff, you can just add it in. It doesn't need activating. So a tin of that lasts ages, because we only use tiny little grams because we're proven over a long time. So the tiniest little bit of yeast in the bowl is all we need. I'm going to put a recipe for 4 pizza dough balls in the description. So if I miss anything, or if you want to refer to that, then I'll put it all in the description for the Poolish and the main flour. So we're going to pop that into our mixer. We have got sea salt to put in, but we're not going to do that yet. What we're going to do is get this mixed. Get the hook back on. So we'll start on a low speed, just to get it moving and building up that base of gluten and adding to it. Now, it's hard to say how long this takes, but I'd say 15-20 minutes. So to start with, we want to keep it on a low speed. If you're doing it by hand, obviously you're going to keep the same speed. You want to look for the stretchiness of the dough, and we're going to show you how to check if your dough is ready by doing the window pane test. But at the moment, just let it mix away, there's no rush. And we'll check back in when we're ready to turn the speed back up. So this has been mixing now on a low speed for about 10 minutes. We're going to add in our salt. Now when you add in the salt, you're helping the dough to build up a bit of heat. So the friction will help that dough to come up to temperature. You don't want a cold dough, you want some heat in there. So when you're mixing by hand, your body temperature and the heat in your hands is going to transfer to the dough, which is a good thing. But in a metal mixer, you don't have that heat. So adding in the salt gives it that abrasive friction, which is good for building up the heat. So at this point, we could turn the speed up to maybe 2 or 3. And then just keep an eye on your mixer, because this one's trying to run away. So we're going to let that run for another 5 minutes, and then I'll show you how to test your dough to see if it's good. Another thing to look out for is the bowl. It should clean itself, so when it's ready, it should start cleaning the bowl. You should have a nice clean bowl. Sometimes you don't, and that's fine, but it's a good sign to look out for. Right, our dough has been mixing now for probably 20 minutes, if that, including the autolyzing time. We've got a nice silky dough, so I'm going to show you what to look for. I'm just going to take this dough out. And you can see here that when I stretch it, instead of it tearing, you get a nice window pane. So you can see the light coming through it, and you can feel how hard that is. And that's that gluten structure, which is knitted together, and it's nice and relaxed. It's really silky smooth, and that's what you want with the dough. Obviously the consistency of it, it's nice and smooth, really smooth. There's no lumps in it. It's really nice and relaxed. So what you do now is let this bulk proof for up to 24 hours. What we normally do is we call it balling up, so creating your dough balls. You can do that the night before an event, or if you want to cook pizzas at 7 o'clock on a Saturday, for example, do it the night before, that'd be fine. Just make sure you give it enough time to ball up and relax, and then the air can expand. All that yeast in there is feeding on the sugar and releasing gas, and that's what gives you the rise. So that's what we want in our pizza. So for the purpose of the video, I'm going to ball up now and just show you how to do that, because we haven't got 24 hours to wait for this. If you've got a scraper or like a dough card or anything like that, what you want is something that you can just cut through the dough. So our dough balls are 270 grams each. That's what this recipe is designed to do. You can make them bigger, you can do 2 massive pizzas or something crazy like that, one huge pizza, but we're going to do 270 grams. So you want to try and get it as close as you can. So we've got 360 there, so we can cut and keep coming. There we go. So that's one portion. Now with this, you want to create a nice dough ball, so you can stretch like this and then just tuck underneath. And then what you'll feel is the top becoming quite smooth and it's not sticky at all. There's a few things you can do. You can put it between your hands and roll like that. And then you've got a nice dough ball. Underneath, you need to seal this up. This is called the key. So you need to seal that up, because when you come to stretch the pizza out, if that's not sealed, you're likely to get a hole. And the hole in a pizza is terrible, because it can cause a massive mess in the oven. So that's one. Another technique, when the dough is proved as well, it's got a lot of air in it. So you want to try and get it as close to the 270 mark as you can. And then again, just pass it between my hands. Now another technique you can use is to get it on the board and then tuck your fingers underneath. Do you know what, I'm going to move that. I'll show you on the work surface. You don't need any flour. If you start adding flour at this point, it will suck out that moisture and you can get some dry spots, and it's not great. So here, you just sort of put your nails on the surface and just push underneath. And what that will do, if I come from this side, is roll the dough ball over, like that. Keep the top at the top at all times. And then you'll get the muscle memory built up anyway, and you can just make that up. And then again, see the hole underneath, you just want to pinch that together like that. That's another one done. And then this one I can just split into two. So start tucking it underneath onto the surface, roll it, dough ball, seal the bottom, another one done, tuck around the edge underneath, seal the bottom. But again, whatever works for you. If you want to do it this way, that's fine. You can roll it about on the surface. As long as that top is nice and smooth and you seal the underneath, you're good to go. And then you have your dough balls ready to go. Now what you want to do at this stage is get them into even a bowl will do. So you can get a nice deep bowl, put them on there, no olive oil, no flour, that's absolutely fine. Cover it with cling film. You want these to be airtight, because if the air gets in there, the surface will become really crispy and it will rip and it will be a nightmare to stretch. So they're balled up, they're good, like I said, the night before, or at least 8 hours before you want to cook them, and they'll expand. And then to get them out, just get some semolina underneath and they should come out. And then when you're stretching your pizza, keep the top on the top. We've got some that we made earlier, so I'm just going to show you how to get a dough ball out and then stretch that pizza. Here is some of our pre-prepared dough balls, and you can see the difference, how much it's relaxed. We normally use trays like this We fit 15 in here, 3 and 5, and when they prove in here, they keep each other in a good shape. Whereas if you have a plate or a bowl, they do tend to spread out a bit. So if you can do it in a bowl like this shape, you probably get a good shape to your dough ball. But if you're just trying it at home, then absolutely fine. These have turned out lovely. So what we're going to do is grab some of this fine semolina. You can get this we got this from Asda. They do fairly big bags like this. You can use flour, but be careful because flour tends to burn in the oven. So if you can get hold of fine semolina, job's a good one. So just to get this out, we're going to put some just on one side. I'm going to take our scraper, just ease that underneath. And then pick up our dough ball and we're going to put it top down into our semolina. And now we want to coat this with semolina. Be really gentle because you've taken all of the time to create this air. You don't want to go and squash that all out now. It's just like a little pillow. So this is full of air. Now at this point, a bit of semolina on my work surface. I'm going to make sure it's in a nice circle. And then we're going to stretch it. So what we want to achieve here is pushing all of this air into the crust. So you want to start in the middle with your fingertips and just gently push all of the air into the crust. Working your way around. You can rotate and do it again. And you want to keep that, you can see all the air bubbles around the edge. You want to keep that about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, but just make sure that the base is nice and flat, but the crust has got all of that air in it. And when you're happy with this side, a little sprinkle semolina, turn it over. Again, being really careful with this crust. And then do the same on this side. I'm just showing you nice and slowly. And then back. Now here, an easy way to do it is to pick it up. Don't pinch the crust, but get your fingertips underneath. And put it on the back of your knuckles and just rotate it around. And just let the gravity stretch the dough. You can move your knuckles apart. But all of that gluten that we built up earlier is going to help the pizza stay intact. Just to show how much gluten that we can build up using the right flours and the right technique. So you've seen us stretch out the dough. It can go quite far. If you've taken the time to build up that gluten, you shouldn't have any issues really. Just make sure it's at room temperature, because if this dough is cold, you won't get that stretch and it'll really fight against you. But if you've given it the time to build up the gluten, you've kept it at room temperature, you'll have a nice stretchy dough, really sort of pliable, and you can stretch out your base, keep all of the air in the crust. And now what we're going to do is just top this and put it in the oven, and that'll be good to go. If you want to see a step-by-step on how to cook this in a home oven, then we've done a video on that. I'll put a link in the description. Check that out. It shows you all of the details about how to achieve the best pizza you can in an oven at home. We've also done a video on how to use a wood-fired oven, so check that out as well. And we'll see you on the next video. Enjoy making amazing pizzas.